Hey, Miss Allen's not here today, so as vice chair, I'm hosting the meeting today. So I'd like to just welcome everyone and call it to order. Roll call.
Call the roll. Miss Allen is absent. Mr. Foster.
Present.
Mr. Hanson is absent. Ms. McSwain.
Present.
Mr. Peterman. Here. Mr. Rice.
Present.
Mr. Barham is absent as well. Chair, we do have a quorum.
Fantastic. So I guess the next issue is minutes from the last meeting.
Yes, Chair, we did send out your February 27th meeting minutes with the package that went out last Friday. We are in need of a motion for the adoption of those minutes.
I move that minutes be accepted as written.
Second.
Thank you. Explain, Mr. Foster. Any discussion? Hearing none. I'll read the roll. Mr. Barham is absent. Mr. Foster.
Yes.
Hanson is absent. Ms. McSwain.
Yes.
Mr. Rice.
Yes.
And Mr. Peterman.
Yes.
Chair, the item is approved by a vote of 4-0.
The next meeting, agenda item is financials.
Correct. Yes, sir. We have a presentation on your FY 25 PPIC operating budget. A budget proposal was submitted with your package last week. This is in a draft form. The budget committee has met on multiple occasions to both review prior budgets and complete a proposal for the coming fiscal year beginning July 1. That is on the screen. It's also here at the table in front of you today. I'm going to turn it over to your treasurer, Ms. McSwain, and Mr. Rice, who both served on the budget committee, and I do appreciate their service and time and helping to prepare the budget. But Ms. McSwain, the floor is yours to review the document.
Thank you. Good morning. This is our proposed budget for fiscal year 2025. And we did have some additions, and we took some things off. Land sales was definitely one thing we had to add, since we are in the midst of trying to sell some land. The revenue bond fees, we actually went down from 5,600 to 5,500. Post community grants at 500,000, with a total operating revenue of $505,500. Okay. Our operating expenses, if you look down, we have, of course, the cost of land sold, auditing, contractual, legal, other indirect cost allocations. And I know you received this, so I won't go through everything. I want you to look at the Star-Based Victory. If you go down a little bit under local incentive grants, and see that we removed that $50,000 because that was given for an incentive that they were doing last year. So that was removed. So I want to make sure that you see that. And just moving right along, our total general expenses for projected for 2025 is $700,350. Development properties held for resale. If you look at that, we did put some, we have the demolition in case we need anything like, going on as far as the property that we're going to sell. And we added ground maintenance, which I know that may have to change. We might have to vote on that if we procure this other property, but we'll come back to that. And I'm sure Mr. Brown will let us know. So our total, let's see, operating income will be $223,250. Going to the non-operating revenue expenses, we kept that investment income And then we went into impairment expense, which is still at $1,000, the same as from 2024. So our total operating revenues is $505,500. Total operating expenses, $728,750. Total non-operating income expense, $1,000. And then if you look at the bottom, you'll see the decrease in net position of $222,250. Net position at the beginning of the period is $1,231,014, and net position at the end of the period is $1,008,764. On the second page, it discusses Burton Points, 3920 and 3930 of Burton Points, and we're looking at legal fees, which is the same. Ground maintenance went up a little. And so our total for 3920 Burton Sport is $9,200. 3930 Burton Point, same thing as legal fees from last year is $5,000, and our ground maintenance did go up to the $1,400. Same as storm water went up to $9,200. So we have a total development of the property balance for 2025 of $18,400. That's the inner report.
Does that assume that we own that property for the whole year? Is that what that assumes? Or
3920, 3930.
Yeah.
Yes,
Just-
before the sale.
because we're hoping that the sale happens soon, right?
It's likely that property will not, it's possible, but most likely it will not close in the coming fiscal year. Traditionally, our purchase agreements build in a due diligence period and also a permitting period, which averages about 12 months. So we are currently negotiating the contract for the sale of the property. So they will have that period of time, in theory, just using some rough numbers, typically 12 months from date of execution. So it's possible, but most likely that will not close. The value for that land sales, we have not reflected that as a revenue in the budget yet because we are not technically under contract. So if you look at your first section that Ms. McSwain reviewed with you, your operating revenues, your land sales, you'll notice the first line there does not have a value. Once we execute the contract, that sale price is $1,995,000. So we would, once we go under contract, would be programming that number in or after that when the draft budget comes back to you for final review and adoption in April.
Yes. Are there any questions or comments from anybody here about the presentation, the budget presentation? So this is not a vote. This is just a.
Correct. There is no action needed today. This is provided for your review and consideration, as well as any comments, feedback that can be provided to the budget committee between now and your April meeting. The intent is to come back with a updated and finalized budget for your April meeting for to adopt at that time.
And the only question I have is it says Port Host Community Grant FY25. It says TBD. What is the TBD?
It's a to be determined. We do not have a project. That is an annual program. We do expect that we will have an application to submit in FY25. So we have programmed in the what we would call the minimum grant award request, which is $500,000. We do have 2 or 3 projects that are interested in the program for the upcoming fiscal year. So we expect to submit an application. And that is reflective of a potential application funding. And we will have an update later on in the meeting on the Port Host grant program.
And the other question I had was on the job creation grant. We've never had that in the budget before, but now we have it in for $50,000. Is that something new?
It was actually the current year's budget, your FY24 budget. That was a program that the PPIC established last year, and that is to incentivize job creation for industrial projects and businesses that are new to Portsmouth or expanding in Portsmouth. We have not had a company take advantage of that yet. This grant is primarily to cover industrial businesses that are not located within the Virginia Enterprise Zone. The Enterprise Zone does provide for a job creation grant on its own through that program at the state level. And this is a program you all launched to account for any other projects outside of the zone that would like to incentivize job creation and support. So we have not had an opportunity to deploy those funds yet. They were programmed last year, and we're proposing to carry that forward.
And I guess on the other question I was on travel, you dollars in this year's budget and 2000 proposed budget. Is that enough or is that not enough?
I don't believe you've used it yet this year, but we have included that should you determine there's a need to travel, and we've done the same thing for training. There are occasions where board members have attended a training program or course or had to travel outside the area, and those funds are there. I don't want to say as a placeholder because the expectation is you would use them, but as needed to cover any expenses.
Because I just remember, when I was a member before COVID, we had some training events that we were going to pay for, and then they got canceled because of COVID. But is that something we ought to, as an agenda item, as to what we ought to be doing for travel and training?
Certainly something for the commission to discuss. I believe last year we sent a commissioner to a training, I want to say in the Richmond area through Virginia Tech. They have a course, a program that they run that provides training and economic development programs for organizations such as the PPIC, and I think we had a board member attend that. I think Mr. Parr was present for that, so I can cover that. Certainly, if there's programs or conferences or trainings that the board would like to explore, that's certainly something that we're here to support that.
Okay, my question. If anybody else have any more questions on the presentation you just heard? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So we will plan to come back in April. We'll have a finalized budget for your adoption. That, of course, will go out and then be packed prior to the April meeting.
Okay. Yes, now for old business, I guess. Huh?
Yes, sir. We are now moving on to the Port of Virginia update. We have Chris Gullickson here with the Port of Virginia here to present.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Mr. Peterman. Since my last remarks during the February meeting, just to put an official stamp on it, we did make the public announcement that we completed the widening of our channel, enabling for the two-way transit of the ultra-large container vessels. So that was a real milestone. The Army Corps and the port and other partners continue to make strides in completing the deepening project, because it is sort of a twofold approach, not just one of the widest ports, but obviously we want to be one of the deepest ports. So that project is making substantial progress, but we got a lot of nice attention, both from the media, but obviously more importantly from our customers, recognizing our ability to handle two-way traffic and providing an immediate savings for a lot of those customers and the amount of time they may have had to previously wait to come into the harbor as another vessel could have been exiting or approaching. So being able to lift that two-way transit restriction is a key savings in time, which equates to obviously a financial benefit. So we're proud of that project, and it continues to make strides. Over at PMT, we're wrapping up milestone 2, which is a tremendous feat, in that we're getting to the point where obviously the project is far past halfway complete. I think we're in the 65% complete point within the PMT improvements for the Coastal Virginia Offshore Wind Project. For those who've been tracking, the CVOP project will begin its install of the monopiles, which are the pieces that currently sit there at PMT after the May 1st moratorium is lifted on offshore construction and bottom impact. So that's on schedule. We will continue to see a fair amount of activity, a tremendous amount of activity associated with the outload of those monopiles and other pieces that go towards the project. So again, that is underway, and it's exciting to see just those big pieces, but really to see the opportunities that's creating for industry here in Portsmouth and within the Hampton Roads region. And then finally, we continue to make strides over at NIT. We're conducting an optimization of the north end of Oakland International Terminals. That project, phase 1, should be online towards the end of calendar year 2025. So obviously we're 18, 20 months out, but it is a project that is, they're making progress. They're doing a lot of the civil work. Again, the installation of the rail mounted gantry cranes. That is something we're replicating from here, obviously in Portsmouth at VIG, as we're a semi-automated container handling facility. So excited for that project to continue to make, positive momentum and enable us as a board to continue to add more capacity to the marketplace. So I know my remarks are somewhat brief today, but happy to answer any questions.
Chris, I just have one question.
Yes, sir.
The Baltimore Bridge, Francis Scott Key Bridge takedown. What impact is that likely to happen on our port?
I would say probably too soon to say any, I think at this point, just trying to recover those individuals that were lost on the bridge.
No, I'm talking about.
I don't know.
Port. I mean,
I don't have I guess it's fair to assume that there will be impacts to this harbor. And so I think that's just more or less to the nature of the maritime industry and even the importance of in a commission like this, that so many of us are tied to the industrial waterfront. And into, there is a high level of regard for fellow ports and harbors. So, I think it's probably the same in the Navy for other navies around the world. So I just think fair to say, we're going to see, ways in which we can assist from recovery to future, supporting the movements of critical freight. Just talking to and before the meeting, I didn't think about cruise ships. These are all sorts of things. None of us have all the thoughts at this point because it's so recent. Yeah, obviously we're a partner in this and moving freight and the economy safely. So I don't know that there's like a official, but it's something. I can tell you this also. Just safety and rescue is a big deal. In fact, we just conducted about 3 or 4 weeks ago our annual safety and rescue symposium, which the city of Portsmouth is a very active participant. Mm-hmm. We have obviously a maritime incident response team, and all of our host localities, Portsmouth in particular, are a big part of that and making, bringing together all these waterfront assets for fire and rescue to respond in these type of instances.
And I would anticipate that you're going to have a lot more volume, that be redirected here. Would that be a correct assumption?
I can't say many. I think the answer is the cargo is going to flow, and we do serve a Baltimore barge once a week on Columbia Coastal, so it's hard to fathom that will be moving. But I think, your thoughts probably are accurate.
Yeah. You're going by the news. They said it's going to be at least a month before they clear the channel. So
sounds like a lot of unknowns at this point in time, but certainly the concern is the recovery efforts and dealing with the issue of the bridge.
Any other questions for Chris? Okay, thank you very much, Chris.
Thank you.
Okay. Chair, your next agenda item is 3920 and 3930 Burton's Point Road. We spoke a little bit about the property during the budget discussion, but just to quickly recap, These are properties that we are negotiating a contract for the sale and development of an industrial facility with Stonemont Financial Group. We have just as of I believe late Friday, I think, received a updated version of the sale agreement. So the city attorney's office, cooperation with our office, are currently reviewing the amended agreement, the terms that have been proposed for that project. While we are doing that, the development group has been moving forward with some of their preliminary due diligence work to include the environmental review of the property. You know, there are wetlands on the property. I believe everybody is familiar with the fact that this is a former EPA, or is an EPA Superfund site. So there are some matters that need to be addressed that are somewhat unique, both of those standpoints. And also they are looking at the developability and design of the site. If we can just advance one more slide, Ms. Tracy, thank you. So this layout that's shown on the overhead is buying a proposed building. Location of the building is approximately 164,000 square feet. That may change a little bit as they work through the wetlands issues and environmental contamination that was present on the property. They're currently doing some geotechnical assessments to determine load-bearing capacities for the building, et cetera. So certainly doing their work to make sure they're prepared to move forward. But we hope to have a finalized agreement here this week and look to get under contract so that we can begin the process of getting them moving forward with their plan development and so forth. So things are moving forward at a good pace. And we'll certainly be keeping you abreast monthly as we come back with regular updates on the progress they're making. But they are off to a good start. They've been in communications with the Department of Environmental Quality, the EPA, and some other parties to make sure that they have the information necessary to move forward.
So no showstoppers or anything to slow it down so far?
Not at this time. All indications are that they're moving forward, and certainly if we hear of those big issues, and we'll be back before you with an update to discuss it further. But right now, things are moving forward at a good pace.
Any questions or comments from anyone here? Okay, thank you very much. Next agenda item is the Norfolk Naval Shipyard Southgate Annex update. Mr. Donahue?
Yeah, yes. Update is we have provided the interest of a few private sector businesses in the property to the shipyard, and we're just waiting on a response back for next steps. The last meeting, there was some discussion about the ability to move the fence line and possibly going out to walk the site. So we're waiting just to hear back from the shipyard on coordinating for that visit to take place and to see about what possibilities lie ahead for private industry and the use of the property. So that is the update for today.
Okay, thank you. And, I just for everybody, I attended the Norfolk Military Affairs Committee meeting this past week, and you see the Lambert's Point effort over there. They advertise that they got 600 jobs out of that redevelopment effort over there. Just because HII moved over there, they're using some offshore wind for that spot, and so it kind of cued me that this Southgate thing has real promise. As does any level land that's near the water here in Portsmouth. So just wanted to make everyone aware of that. So 600 jobs. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next is the Port Host Community Grant Report. Mr. Donahue?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just a few updates on some previous Port Host grant awards that we wanted to provide. The first is your FY 2022 grant award, which went to JSSY. That is the owner and operator of the Shipwright Street property at 3301 Shipwright Street. That was a very large award. I think it may be the largest in the program's history, but $856,000 was awarded by the state of Virginia to support the replacement of approximately 430 linear feet of bulkhead that has been deteriorating. Since the application went in, the applicant determined that there were some issues with moving forward with that work at this time, and a couple of other priorities that came about. And those are tied to some contracting opportunities that presented themselves to the shipyard, and they have proposed a modification and a change to the scope of the work, which has included the installation of a trestle pier so that they can operate a lift for servicing vessels at the property. There is a travel lift, a rail lift on the site, which they believe to be in an operating condition. When they purchased the property, they discovered that it was inoperable, and they are proposing to install a pier to allow for them to service vessels, to remove them and bring them onto the yard for repairing and maintenance. The state of Virginia has approved that change in the scope of work. They've also provided an extension of 18 months to June of 2025 for completion of the work. So that is a modification that was just recently approved by the state. And I do believe there will likely need to be some amendment to the agreement that we would bring back before you, most likely at your April meeting, to allow for them to move forward with the changes. But they're very anxious to do this. I believe they have been ramping up their ship repair work there on Shipwright Street, and this will help them and support their efforts there to diversify the business line. So some progress. We had some delays, but I think things are moving forward in a different way now going forward. I can certainly answer any questions. We do have one other grant award that I did want to touch on, and that is the FY23 award for Crofton Industries. CF Partnership is the entity that they have established for the ownership of the property. We received $415,000 in the 23 award for the replacement of Crofton's bulkhead there on Scotts Creek. 276 feet of bulkhead have been replaced. That work is complete. In fact, we held a ribbon cutting on February 29th. A number of you were in attendance for that event. They've really done a really fantastic job over the years in a phased approach to really remake and modernize the waterfront there at their facility. And what this will allow for them to do is to load and offload equipment directly to their barges. That includes some of their heavy crane and rigging equipment that they can now move in and out of Portsmouth to job sites up and down the East Coast. So pretty significant improvement for Crofton. They're very appreciative of the grant, and they are in the process of completing their grant disbursement documentation so we can make that award to them. So really turned out to be a great project, and I think a really fantastic use of the funds in the program.
Yeah. In fact, I was one of the people that was there as well as the commissioner, and it was an amazing, increase in capacity there. You haven't seen it before.
Prior to the work, they were really working off a bulkhead that consisted of old railroad ties, and not sure what else was really holding it together, to be quite honest. But it is really a, brand new sheet pile with concrete cap, bulkhead, which will last for decades to come. So really, I think a pretty significant improvement for one of our premier industrial properties in the city.
Agree, yes. Next one is 06 Street.
Yes, 06 Street, 1603 7th Street, which are properties that are being conveyed by the Portsmouth Redevelopment and Housing Authority to the PPIC for marketing for future development. That transfer is in early stages of happening. As part of the transfer process, we are in need of a subdivision plat document to consolidate the property. There's actually two parcels, and I think a paper street or right away there. So we're obtaining a quote for a subdivision plat document that will require some survey work. And we will be looking to move forward with that as soon as we obtain pricing. We do have a firm under an annual services contract with the city of Portsmouth, Wolfert, that we will be looking to utilize for the helper. We do not expect that to exceed $10,000, but once we have the final price, we will advise you of that.
And just looking at the site, this is another one of those EPA sites. So is there any work that needs to be done to it, before we sell it or anything?
You're correct. It is a part of the Apex Superfund site, and I believe Mr. Miller has shared some information on that previously. But Jeff, if you can just kind of recap the situation there.
Yeah, the cleanup on the site is complete. So whoever goes in to develop it will have to be aware of the standards that exist on the AVEX site as far as digging and removal of dirt. So there will be an environmental consideration. There's no cleanup to clean up.
And you can see in Port Center overall, there have been properties that were within the Superfund cleanup area that have been redeveloped as industrial uses. So this is a common practice, one that's supported by the EPA, and it's not a new process for a potential developer to undertake.
And the plan for disposal of this, you have a plan in action with realtor?
We do. You have Harvey Lindsay Commercial Real Estate under contract. They were procured. They are representing us on the Burton's Point Road disposition of that property. So they would be working to market this property and help with the sale as well.
So is there any decisions we need to make on this one?
No decisions at this time. I think what we'll be looking to do is come back in April and just advise you of the subdivision plat preparation moving forward and what the expense associated with that will be. And then probably have a schedule for when we can go ahead and take down the property.
So is there anything we need to add to the budget?
No, we've accounted for that. So that's been incorporated under some of your contractual expenses for surveying. And we think that there's sufficient funding there to cover the costs. Once the property does transfer, there will be some continued maintenance and insurance costs. We have not factored that in yet, just because we're unsure at the time, but those are not great expenses, but we would probably make some sort of budget amendment.
And that's just internal city transfer responsibility from one office to another.
Correct. That's correct. Yes, sir. Cutting the grass, insuring the property. Those are the minimal expenses that you would be assuming.
If you have any questions for any of you on this property? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is new business.
Yes, Chair, we have no new business. It was just updates under old business today. There is also not a need for a closed meeting. So your next item would be any items submitted by commissioners.
Any items submitted by any commissioner today? I have one that's, that you and I have talked about, but, Crane Island is a huge piece of real estate that just, I'm not sure that, there's a long-term vision for it for the city of Portsmouth. And the only reason I'm interested in this, or that I've become aware of this, is when I saw the 600 jobs at Lambert's Point. That HII moved over there, and why not over at Carney Island or someplace in Portsmouth? And my daughter works for the Army Corps of Engineers. Now she's the program manager for Carney Island. So she took a tour of the place, and she's only been in the job now for 6 weeks, but she just took it over and says, "Hey, right now this is a never-ending story. It's just they're continuing to use it for spoils. The city uses part of it for, I guess we throw trees and mulch and biodegradable stuff there, and I guess." I guess just thinking that maybe in the long-term vision of what the PPIC does, we ought to be interested in Craney Island. That's kind of my thought, and right now, I guess, don't know who owns it, don't know if the state owns it or we own it or what needs to be done, and then I don't know if Chris needs this thing for another port, because you told us when you closed down the Portsmouth terminal that you didn't need another port because you got lots of room. So I guess my question is, what's the vision? Should we have one?
Just two statements. We didn't close PMT, right? We're repositioning that asset to support a new industry, which I think leads to that 600 jobs there at Lambert's Point. At least for a portion of those jobs tied back to the Coastal Virginia offshore wind project. So I would say the reinvestment of legacy facilities is tremendous to see, especially at PMT, as that's one of our older facilities. But subsequently, looking at the port's long-term vision, of course, Crane Island Marine Terminal is part of that. I'm not in a position today to, give a detailed presentation on that timeline, but no, the front side of Crane Island, or the side that is adjacent the shipping channel, right, adjacent NIT, Norfolk International Terminals. We have Commonwealth Virginia Port Authority owns the front side of that. There's been federal funds for a number of years dedicated towards building up the phase one section of Crane Island Marine Terminal. And so you can actually see, depending on the tide, the dikes beginning to come out and that future development. There's a number of other things. I mean, again, I this morning wouldn't be the one equipped to speak on it, but I can tell you there's definitely a vision and a plan, and it's not just to build a terminal, but all of the other level of connectivity that's required when you think about road and rail and all of the different facets of planning that will go into developing a brand new marine terminal. But I can say, if we have that as our future terminal for folks of us like Brian and his staff, and our economic development staff and others, when we're out there talking to industry, that's something we're talking about, because if companies are looking towards this community to be $1 billion type investment, those type of legacy type investments to build industry, they want to make sure that there's a port that's vibrant and thriving. And so by all means, Crane Island Marine Terminal is part of that future for the Virginia Port Authority and for Portsmouth.
And that will require totally exclusive use of that.
Again, I can't speak to, I'm not I just, quite frankly, just knowing that the front section is kind of how it will come out of the water. It's, I think, 600 or 700 acres. But if we wanted to make that a future agenda item, we could definitely put back and report out what that looks like for years forward. But of course, the backlands where the city's placing, but I don't know the ownership of how that I don't know enough about the topic.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts, I think, when it comes to Crane Island. There's obviously the Port of Virginia has future plans and interest. The Army Corps of Engineers is continuing to use the facility for dredge operations and spoils. The city of Portsmouth does have a city-owned landfill adjacent to Crane Island. A lot of different interests out there, which we could come back with some sort of report or information on all the different activities occurring, maybe plans in the future. at a future meeting.
I think that's what I'd like to see as a vision statement. What this thing is looking like, maybe 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 30 years from now, 100 years from now, a year from now. I guess, can we make that kind of an agenda item?
I could certainly be in a discussion. I mean, absolutely. Come back with some information and have it open for discussion.
I'm guessing we probably need to have the Army Corps of Engineers make a presentation as to what the hell they're doing. And maybe the state, maybe the city. I don't know. I don't even know who all the people are that need to have the meeting.
We could certainly determine that.
That was just a suggestion. I'm still just the vice chair. I'm just sitting at this table because Miss Allen couldn't make it today. So, it's just one of you guys.
All right, noted. So we will come back with a follow-up on Crane Island at a future meeting.
Any other items by any commissioners that would like to talk about here at the PPIC this month? Any report back?
Yes, sure. We do have a couple of report backs for you. The first is we are still working to get a representative from Avangrid Renewable Energy here for a briefing on the Kitty Hawk offshore wind projects. We have reached out to them. We're just waiting on their availability to come before you to do that. Hoping that's a meeting here in the near future, whether it's your April or May meeting is yet to be determined, but that is a request that has been made. And then the other item is just to inform you all of the upcoming State of the City event, which is scheduled for May 3rd. That will be occurring at noon. That is held at Rivers Casino, Portsmouth. A lot of exciting updates and I think recaps from last year, many of which the PPIC has been involved in. And we do have a table reserved PPIC for the State of the City. So we will be coordinating with you. Ms. Karen Williams will be reaching out to you to advise you of the time and the details for that event. And Chairman, that is all that we had for discussion for you today.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Mr. Tanya. I'd just like to recognize our commissioner. I mean, there's an award ceremony of the Citizen of the Year here coming up for him in the next couple of days. And I just, want to thank him for being part of this group and for all he contributes to the city. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Ron.
And just, I need a motion to adjourn. No? Okay, well, then the meeting is adjourned.